Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, for 1 year as we read through St. Faustina's diary. Join me, Amy Thomas, each day for a short reading out of the diary which brought us a deeper understanding of Christ's divine mercy. Hello, Catholic pilgrims, and welcome to day 267 of our readings from St. Faustina's diary. So we all know as Catholics that there are the corporal works of mercy and the spiritual works of mercy. And the corporal works of mercy always seem a lot easier to do because they're actual tangible things that you do. Like you clothe the naked and feed the hungry and give drink to the thirsty and bury the dead and things like that. We know what we're supposed to do with those. They're very clear. And so a lot of us struggle with knowing what to do with the spiritual works of mercy. And so we're going to talk about those today because Sister Faustina is going to bring up the fact that not everybody can afford themselves to do corporal works of mercy, but we can be doing spiritual works of mercy, and those don't require any money at all. And she's very right about that. So that is our topic for today in Notebook 4, numbers 1315 through 1317. In times of interior desolation, I do not lose my peace, because I know that God never abandons a soul, except perhaps only when the soul itself breaks the bond of love by its unfaithfulness. However, all creatures without exception depend on the Lord and are maintained by his omnipotence. Some are under the rule of love, others under the rule of justice. It depends on us under which rule we want to live, because no one is refused the aid of sufficient grace. I am not frightened at all by my apparent abandonment. I examine myself more profoundly to discover whether this is due to my fault. If this is not the case, then may the Lord be blessed. October 1st, 1937. Daughter, I need sacrifice lovingly accomplished, because that alone has meaning for me. Enormous indeed are the debts of the world which are due to me. Purer souls can pay them by their sacrifice, exercising mercy in spirit. I understand your words, Lord, and the magnitude of the mercy that ought to shine in my soul. Jesus. I know, my daughter, that you understand it, and that you do everything within your power. But write this for the many souls who are often worried because they do not have the material means with which to carry out an act of mercy. Yet spiritual mercy, which requires neither permissions nor storehouses, is much more meritorious and is within the grasp of every soul. If a soul does not exercise mercy somehow or other, it will not obtain my mercy on the day of judgment. Oh, if only souls knew how to gather eternal treasure for themselves, they would not be judged, for they would forestall my judgment with their mercy. I made a little goof there at the beginning. Christ is talking about the corporal works of mercy and the spiritual works of mercy. Sister Faustina is writing them down. But anyway, so what we see here is Christ is talking about how, sometimes people can't afford, he says they don't have the means to carry out an act of mercy. Now, he doesn't say a corporal work of mercy, but that's what he's referring to. He's talking about all those things that require some monetary means or an abundance of your material things to give to other people. But there is the spiritual works of mercy. And Christ says here, yet spiritual mercy, which requires neither permissions nor storehouses, is much more meritorious and is within the grasp of every soul. So these are the things we can do, whether we have money or not, whether we have storehouses of food or drink or clothes, we can do these. And so I thought now would be a good time to just briefly go over the 7 spiritual works of mercy and what they are and how we can go about practicing them. So the first one is counseling the doubtful. And, all of us at some point in our life have had somebody come up to us who's maybe doubting their faith or doubting belonging to the Catholic Church or something along those lines. Maybe even an atheist who, is searching, but they're still doubtful. What can we do to help them in this regard? Well, there's a couple things we can do. If someone is coming to us and they're doubtful, sometimes our first reaction can be maybe one of anger, because we're kind of afraid that they might lose their faith. And so we, I guess, try to scare them into not leaving the faith behind. But we need to listen patiently and calmly and hear them out, because there may be something that they're struggling with that we could answer very easily, or there may be something that they're really struggling with that's difficult for us to answer, and we need to guide them in the right place. And so if somebody comes, just make sure that you listen to them. And if you know that someone is struggling, don't pressure them too much. Don't hover over them and try to, stuff their heads full of every answer that you possibly can think of. But maybe they do need a little bit more attention. So maybe inviting them to coffee, maybe inviting them to come with you to Mass is something that you can do, or setting up a rosary time where the two of you pray together and then you can talk about what they're struggling with. The next one is instructing the ignorant. Now, we often use ignorant and stupid in the same way, but ignorant just means somebody who doesn't know. They are ignorant to certain knowledge about a topic. And so you can think of this as your children. It's important for us to instruct our children. When they're little, they're ignorant in the faith. And so it's our job to make sure that they are brought up well, understanding their Catholic faith and all that goes along with it. And, there's other ways that you can go about doing this. You can teach a CCD class. You can teach an RCIA class. This is one of my favorites. I have taught CCD. I have taught confirmation classes. I would love to teach a RCIA class, but I just haven't had that opportunity yet. But those are things that you can do. And then there is comforting the sorrowful. And, gosh, when somebody is going through a really hard time, maybe they've lost a loved one, or they've lost their job, or just, maybe they are going through a big time marital crisis, being there for them is huge. And so, being a listening ear is one of the most important things. Sometimes people just need to talk it out and get it out of their system. I know when I was counseling, I would ask questions from time to time and prompts from time to time to get people to talk. But most of the time, I just really sat there and listened. And sometimes people just need to say something over and over and over again. And as they say it over and over again, they're processing it and they're giving that bad event less control and power over their lives. I recently saw somebody asking how to help a friend who's gone through miscarriage, and she's like, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. And I told her, I was like, just listen to her, and she may need to tell her story many times to you, and each time just listen, because each time she tells it, it's grip on her heart. Let's go just a little bit, and she can process it just a little bit more, and it's very, very helpful. And then also just, doing practical things, maybe inviting somebody over for dinner or for coffee. I know that sounds like, spending money, but you're probably going to be eating too. And coffee's not that much if you bring them over to your house. So, those are small, inexpensive things that we can do. The next one is forgiving injuries. And this one is difficult for all of us to do. But we can let go of grudges. We can just let go and let God handle it. And if somebody comes to us and is saying they're sorry, to accept it. And we've talked about this before. Just because they come and say that they're sorry and you forgive them, it may be the case that they still can't be in your life because they could potentially be dangerous to you or your children or whoever. But we can still forgive them and set up appropriate boundaries. And sometimes we really need to ask God for the graces to be able to do this one, because it can be really difficult. Then we have bearing wrongs patiently. This one is hard again for all of us. So, if you are at the DMV, because that's where I always get super frustrated, and the person behind the counter is driving you nuts, pray for the graces to be able to handle them calmly. And if you're in a situation where someone is frustrating you to no end, walk away. Just walk away for a moment. Collect your bearings, pull it together, say a prayer, maybe take a walk around the block, cool off. For me, I put in one of my, CDs. I know I have CDs. I put in one of my CDs of one of the songs that really just kind of, is driving and pumps me up, helps kind of get some of that angst off of me. But, whatever is helpful for you, as long as it's a positive outlet. But yeah, bearing with people, that's a tough one, but a definite act of mercy. Then we have praying for the living and the dead. We can always do that. If you have a morning prayer time, maybe make a list of those who you need to pray for. I use my rosary as a way to pray for many, many people in my life, both living and dead. And so that is a true act of mercy, because if they're passed away and they may be in purgatory, those prayers are very important to them. And we know that praying for also the living here on earth is extremely important. Everybody needs to be uplifted in prayers. The last one, though, is the most controversial: admonishing the sinner. Oh boy, this one gets, ire from all sides, doesn't it? So what do? It is not loving to just sit back and watch somebody continue in their sin. It's not loving. I know that our culture wants everybody to be hands off on certain things, mostly dealing with the sexual realm. But, it isn't okay. If I love you, I'm concerned about your soul. And the spiritual works of mercy are actually more important than the corporal works of mercy, because the soul, is what goes on into heaven or hell. And so it's so important that it gets to heaven. And so if we see somebody falling into sin, it's not loving to just sit back and say, well, who am I to judge? I can't stand that phrase because everybody takes it in such the wrong way. We can call people out in what we see as something wrong. We are rational people. We know the difference between right and wrong. And it's all about the delivery, really. If you come up like an arrogant jerk and, with your nose in the air, like you don't ever sin, well, of course, no one's ever going to listen to you, and you are probably going to do more damage than good. But if we come in a loving spirit, I was like, hey, I'm concerned about you. I notice that you're doing X, and it's not good for you. I know it's not good for you. And I know it's not good because of these reasons. And show them, you've changed, you seem unhappy, you're consumed with this. It's causing a lot of anger in your life. You're just not the same person. It's a sin in the eyes of the church. And so, God cares whether you're doing this or not. And I care because I love you and I don't want to continue seeing you do this. It's up to them whether they listen or not, obviously, but at least somebody needs to say something to them. And again, it's all about the delivery. And when somebody admonishes us, we need to make sure that we are open to hearing that criticism. There's a difference between just criticizing to be mean and constructive criticism. We have to be wise enough and mature enough to know the difference. If I'm just telling you that you're a bad person and just trying to hurt you and make you feel bad, calling you names, telling you that you're worthless, that you're no good, all those types of things, that's not helpful. But if I'm saying, hey, I love you, I don't want to see you continue down this path, maybe let's try to think of some ways to fix this problem so that you don't continue to do it. That's a way more loving way. That is all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. I will see you back here for day 268. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.